But if you close your eyes,
Hello, I'm TechFireHub24 and welcome to another episode of Did You Know That? So if Facebook loses the FBI court thing, are we all screwed? It could change privacy as we know it. So forget the technology. If the FBI successfully forces Apple to create a new OS just to brute force hack its own product, that's the first step through a very dark one-way door for all of us. In case you haven't heard, the FBI has its position on an Apple iPhone 5C that was used by one of the terrorists involved in last year's San Bernardino, California mass shooting. The device has potentially valuable information that law enforcement cannot access because the phone is locked with a passcode. What's more, if the terrorist used the OS security option that wipes the phone after 10 consecutive failed login attempts, the information will be lost forever. The FBI believes Apple can build a firmware upgrade that will prevent the phone from performing a data wipe and make it easier to crack the passcode. Now a judge is ordering Apple to comply. For the time being, let's assume that the government's request is possible, and most experts seem to agree it is. So what does Tim Cook think? In his carefully worded rebuttal and rather eloquent warning, Apple CEO Tim Cook never says that what the FBI is requesting can't be done. Some pundits have summarized that this is because the iPhone in question, an iPhone 5C, doesn't include something called a secure element. The CPU embedded piece of hardware is like a kryptonite for hacking. Touch it the wrong way and the phone is a brick. The 5C and the data on it as well. Though apparently could survive such a hack, and the brute force pin guessing the FBI would be likely to attempt it. Some may be confronted by the possibility that the firmware upgrade might not be, as Cook termed it, the equivalent of a master key, and by the FBI's assurance that this would be based and used only once, they would be designed to only work solely with the terrorist's phone, which was actually owned by the county. But those technical considerations are beside the point. The battle probably couldn't come at a worse and more dangerous time. Our privacy hangs in the balance, and thanks to a fresh and growing array of homeland security concerns, it may soon start tipping in the direction of transparency. That's because even as Apple grapples with the FBI demands, national security officials are painting an increasingly dire threat picture. Earlier this month, James Clapper, U.S. Director of National Intelligence, delivered his annual worldwide threat assessment to Congress in a speech that mentioned the world attacks 46 times. In it, he offered his chilling assessment. The United States will almost certainly remain at least a rhetorical important enemy for most violent extremists, in part due to an ongoing U.S. military, political, and economic engagement overseas. Sunny and violent extremists will probably continually plot against US interests overseas. A smaller number will attempt to overcome the logistics challenges associated with conducting attacks on the US homeland. And the myriad threats aren't limited to jihadists coming to the US homeland, noted Clapper. US-based HVE's homegrown violent extremists will probably continue to pose the most significant Sunni terrorist threat to the US homeland in 2016. These statements put a sharp point on what have been a dull yet persistent worry about the possibility of further terrorist attacks on the US soil. That concern will clearly weigh heavily on citizens, and I think especially on Congress. If Apple is forced to comply with the FBI and investigators do, in fact, find valuable intelligence on the iPhone 5C, federal lawmakers will take it as a signal that, but bluntly, this works and this is time to act now. We have no sympathy for terrorists, wrote Cook in an open letter to customers. Surely it's a sentiment we all share, but Cook has empathy for his customers and knows the risks they will face even from a single act of compliance on Apple's part. Cook made it clear that Apple cooperates and assists with requests wherever possible, but they have never given access to end-to-end encrypted data, because that's technically to do so, and they have fought every request for digital backdoors into secure hardware and software. Cook and Apple are in some ways just like the rest of us. They want the terrorists stopped, just not at the expense of every shred of privacy iPhone customers enjoy. But what happens if Apple loses? Well, the FBI gets what it wants, accesses the iPhone C, pores over the data, and then what? Well, what we face in the bizarre risk of success, who knows what the FBI could learn from access to the phone? Will it trace a thread directly from San Benito terrorists to the ISIS cell in Syria? Will it provide phone numbers, locations, and logistic strategies? It's the kind of jackpot information that will generate a crisis for privacy and security proponents. How do we deny law enforcement when it's so much potentially attainable and accessible information? If Apple was forced to write their software and the FBI finds nothing or tries to build a scant evidence up into a big win, everyone will know. We will still be on a slippery slope. But I bet many tech companies will be able to point to this moment as a law enforcement overreach that netted virtually nothing. Success, though, will turn the slippery slope into a landslide. Apple and virtually every other technology company will not just lose ground in this battle if the FBI succeeds. The ground will slide out from under them. Doing whatever technically is possible to stop terrorists will become compulsory. The idea of a technological backdoor will go from a controversial and almost universally prized idea to one that is a necessary evil to combat true evil. This is possibly that the battle between Apple and the US government will range on for months. It could all go all the way to the Supreme Court. But let's say for the moment that we're in the post-hacked iPhones 5C world. Now, Congress and some portion of the US public is anxious to get ahead of the future terrorist threats by making technology backdoors the law of the land. A Republican-led Congress times the bill to move through Senate and the House and arrive at the president's desk in late January 2017, just in time for a new president to sign off. And if Donald Trump is in the White House, then what do you think he will do?